Welcome to the MommyZen podcast with Marianne, Clyde.
Hi, this is Marianne, Clyde. Welcome to another episode of the MommyZen podcast. Today, our affirmation is, embracing life fully allows me to say yes more often. And my guest again today is Bob Goff, author of the great book, Love Does. He is the husband to sweet Maria and the father to 3 amazing kids. And he started doing adventures with his kids when they were very, very young. And now they're growing up, and he still has this great relationship with them. So, Bob, thank you for joining me again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now, you've done a lot of what parents might call radical adventures with your kids. And I want to talk about your daughter's wedding, but I want to start out much younger. You started talking about, in your book, about kids with their 10-year-old adventures. And I would love to hear about what some of the adventures you did with your 10-year-old kids. And this is not just going to a movie for their 10th birthday.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
We always had the kids kind of spin the globe and say, like, what do you want to do? And like that's been like a kind of a neat thing. It would be neat for some of your listeners to, instead of telling them this is what we're going to do, ask your kids, I don't know, what do you want to do? And then ask them, like, what would be bigger than that? What would be bigger than that? What would be bigger than that? It's not fun. And it isn't about like the lights, camera, action stuff. It's that like I'm fueling their imagination. So Lindsay wanted to have a tea party, and she wanted to go to like high tea.
Right.
And that's where you have like, I guess, these little, what they call sandwiches. For a guy, they're not sandwiches.
They're
like
not.
Little things. So, we could have done that down the street here in San Diego, but I thought, what would be bigger? And like, where do they make the tea, or what's famous? And she wanted to go to London. And I was like, well, let's do it. And we got these $99 British Airways tickets, round trip. Can you believe that? I eat $100 of peanuts.
Really?
And so we went. And like, that's that idea. And the whole idea of a 10-year-old adventure is we would take 36 hours, 48 hours, and go nonstop. No sleeping, no anything, just go. And so we flew to London, and we ran and, saw the Tower Bridge and those like castles, and it was just the best thing. And the last thing we did before we headed back to the airport, we had high tea. And it was one of those father the bride moments, where there was this, instead of this like 20-year-old that he's 10, there was this 10-year-old that I saw as 20. And that's that beautiful thing. You go do some adventures with your kids, you'll see 20-year-olds where you're 10 years old. You get a peek at where you're headed together. So that was hers. Adam wanted to go out and ride motorcycles like a really long way. And oh my gosh, and a long way for him is a long, long way. And so we went into the desert and drove across it.
Oh my goodness! Crazy. On a motorcycle.
I'm like, the wheels ran out of gas, and but that's that thing. There's no roads. You're just going across desert. I'm looking all these, like for skeletons along the way. But like for each of the kids, just say if you're really into fly fishing, but they're not, don't take them on a fly fishing trip. And whatever it is that they're into, go do that. Richard wanted to go climb Half Dome. Isn't that crazy? Now, we couldn't go up the front side because I don't know how to climb, on ropes up. But you could go up. But we didn't want to just do it in the summertime, like when everybody else went. We said, let's go climb it in the winter in the snow.
Crazy
And so
adventure.
we went. We waited till the first big snowstorm was going to clobber Yosemite. And we went in the middle of it. And there was something beautiful. Again, there wasn't a person like in the valley, but walking through the snow and getting up to the top of Half Dome. It's like something beautiful with this little 10-year-old kid. But again, he walked down the trail 20 years old. And the beauty of doing things with your kids like that is you have more things to talk about. We're still laughing about it.
That's right.
And so more and more, what I want to do with the kids is just think, who is it that, not who we are, not who we were, but who are we becoming? Right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get wrapped around the actual thinking about who they were. A lot of us as parents are.
Yeah.
Like we think we're defined by our biggest failure or even defined by our biggest success. And Jesus says, like, none of that. We're defined by our love.
Right.
And so as you think creatively, how could you go like do more of the things that will create this environment of love and give you more stuff to talk about? And you don't have to be super creative. Just do the next thing. And you know what the next thing is? Ask your kids and say, let's go do that. But what if we do something bigger? What would be something bigger?
They're all full of ideas. And you even did that with your daughter. Now that she's grown, you know, she's thinking about she wants to get married. And what do? But you build her a chapel.
I always told her if there was some guy that wanted to marry her, and you know, I like the guy, he and I would build a chapel together. We've got this place out in the middle of nowhere in Canada and a bunch of acreage. And I thought, you know, if there's a guy that takes his knee and wants to marry you and I like him, we'll build a chapel together. And if I don't like the guy, we just never get around to it. But I like this guy, all right. So he asked her to marry, and then we built this chapel over the summer. And it was really fun. We spent 3 months, and there's something neat that happens. I don't want a son-in-law. I want a friend.
That's right.
And so you go do stuff together, you end up with friends. You go be polite to each other, you get a son-in-law. So that's that idea, like, what would make us better friends? We even do that around where I work. You know, we just say, what could we do that we'd be better friends? I don't want to hang out and have barbecues and all that together, but just how could we respect each other? How could we do it? And I don't know what blessings work, but it's like duck, duck, goose around our office. I like if people like blessings, and I don't even know what they are. I just know they worked. Like, it couldn't hurt.
Well, what better way to get to know your son-in-law than actually labor with him side by side, building a chapel?
Yes, isn't that fun? And, you know, God makes it clear He doesn't dwell in these buildings built by men. And actually, we didn't finish the chapel in time. There was still a table saw in the middle of it, so we got married on the lawn.
But it was the thought.
Wasn't the point. It wasn't the stupid building. Lindsay doesn't need a dumb building to know that I love her, right?
Right, absolutely.
She needs me to be friends with her husband, and we ended up finishing that one.
Right. Wow. And you know, they're so invested then. Her new husband is invested in the family and in the marriage and in the ceremony and in the whole process. So often we go to a country club and we pay for a bunch of food and somebody else serves it, and we're really not present at our own weddings. And your daughter, you created this fabulous memory for your daughter. You know what's fun? There's all these plagues that hit Pharaoh. Remember in Egypt, and like there was the frogs and then locusts and all that. We had all these terrific plagues hit us, but like the good sign, like first orca whales showed up in the backyard, and like we're the only house for 100 miles. So like these whales show up, we're like, yeah, they have tuxedos. Oh. And then the next thing, we went out and started catching crabs for this wedding. We got 70 of these things. It was so fun. And then salmon started running. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like it. That's what happens when you go and you just say, what if we go do this adventure together as a family? And then as people are joined to the family, say, and you're just not just invited here, you're welcome. And I think that's one of the things that we spend a lot of time as a family thinking about.
Yeah, so there's this parable about the wedding feast. Mm-hmm. And, you know, everybody's invited and they say, go get more and get more. But there's a big difference between being invited to things and being welcomed, right?
Right.
And so we, I don't know if you remember ever RSVPing for a wedding you've been invited to, and you RSVP for you and all your kids, and they go like, oh no, they're actually coming.
All
so
of
like,
them.
remember George Banks was like trying to cut down the list, and they said the Smiths, and like, he's dead. He's like, yes, but it would be so costly. Right. Like, we invite people, but we're kind of hoping that they don't come, really. And so there's a difference. When I come over to your house, I bet if I did, there'd be like cookies baking in the oven or some bread or something. And you don't just do that, you know, that you stumble in at the time you happen to be making cookies. It's just, you want people to know they're really, really welcomed. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to do with our family. Not just invite people, but let them know you're welcome here. And there's something beautiful that happens when we take people, even expanding that with your families, like to people that we're not just saying, well, you know, you're invited to Jesus. Really, really welcome, right to his feet, whatever he said. And like, and then people that are with, you know, opinions and worldviews and life activities that are ones that you don't agree with, you know, you guys just welcome them. Just say you're welcome here, right to the feet of Jesus. Whatever he said, let's go do that. So we've been working on that as a family.
Well, and Bob, this is how you live, and I remember when I first heard you speak, and I thought, man, I could just sit here and listen to this guy forever, which is kind of how I'm feeling right now, because you are a welcoming person. You walk your talk. And I just thank you so much for being such an inspiration to not just your family, but me and my viewers, and for sharing a part of yourself with us today. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Is there any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the parents that are watching?
You know what? I have a big office in Seattle, and it's got all these vases. It looks like a bunch of lawyers hang out there, right? But I also have an office in San Diego, but this one's over a bakery. And it isn't like I didn't wake up on Tuesday at the office and go like, oh my gosh, there's a bakery underneath me. I picked it on purpose because I smell like the aroma of 1,000 loaves of bread, like rising under me, like all the time. And you know that idea of being the aroma of Christ? It just kind of reminds me of feeling welcomed, and I want people to feel that. And so one of the things that, like you probably don't have an office over a bakery and you're listening. If you went to Target, get a bread machine, right? And just put it in your office or in your home. And like if people come in, they smell this smell of rising bread. And then we don't have to like put Bible verses on it about being the aroma of Christ. What if we just give people warm bread, right? Yeah. And you can put real butter on it, right? And visit them in the hospital. We just keep people warm bread, and they know they're not just invited, they're welcomed. And there's something beautiful that happens. And then they end up giving people warm bread. Like there's something just beautiful that happens. That's the people who we are. We're the ones that let everybody know we're just welcome to the feet of Jesus.
Well, thank you for being such an awesome example of that. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks a million for having me. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thanks. And thank you for joining me today. And remember, our affirmation is embracing life fully allows me to say yes more often. This is Marianne Clyde saying goodbye for now, and I'll see you next week on the MommyZen podcast.
Thanks for listening to the MommyZen podcast. For nuggets of encouragement and strength throughout your day, follow Marianne on Twitter at mommy_zen and Facebook at facebook.com/mommyjustbreathe. Also, you can join our mailing list, leave comments, or ask questions by visiting mommy-zen.com.